Hey, 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 you know what time it is. Woo! Get into it! Get into it! Yes! We're back! Well, everyone, in every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap. The job's a game! No, I'm just kidding. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day because I've had an fabulous Monday. I got to talk to one of my dear friends for a few hours over the phone. I was able to make brunch and I went to the gym and I was able to clean up the house. And it just felt so relaxing to just ease myself into my day. And I really value that. As much as I value the days when I work, which I love my job and I love going to work, but I'm human and I have to have times where I need to rest and recharge and restore myself. And I'm going to change this lighting. Oh, there it is. That's better. Okay. So I hope everybody's having a fabulous day. But the reason why I was singing that song, if anybody knows, you know, it's from Mary Poppins. I actually watched the sequel, Mary Poppins Returns, for the first time last night. I wanted to see it when it first came out, but that was around the time that I had double pneumonia and I was really sick and I could not go. So, eventually, of course, obviously, as you can see, I got better, but I just kept putting the movie on the back burner, kept putting it on the back burner, kept putting it on the back burner. And eventually, I watched it on Disney Plus, and I will have to say that is how you do a sequel. That's how you do a proper sequel, especially for a movie that at the time that Mary Poppins Returns came out, that was the original film came out 54 years prior. That is plenty of time to bring back, excuse me, a fan favorite character. And it got me thinking that I will probably read the books of Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers. If you didn't know, Mary Poppins is a book series. I remember reading the books when I was a kid. So I remember reading Mary Poppins Comes Back, Mary Poppins Opens the Door, and Mary Poppins in the Park. And then there's other subsequent ones after that that are more short stories. But I remember distinctively reading those books growing up, along with The Borrowers. If you know me well enough, I adore that story, which we've read The Borrowers for Storytime. Those episodes are on my Facebook. But I feel like I probably will read the other books within that series as well. The Borrowers, Afield, The Borrowers, Aloft, and The Borrowers Afloat. No, it's the borrowers afield, the borrowers afloat, and then the borrowers aloft. That's the last book. And there's just so many amazing stories that get made into these musical theater spectacles that I really, really enjoy. Comment below, what's your favorite book that's been turned into a movie that actually was really good and really fun to enjoy. Like I said, I enjoyed Mary Poppins Returns. It motivated me to bring those books to Storytime. So in the future, we will be reading those stories. And I'm very excited to share that with you. But we didn't come here to talk about Mary Poppins. We came to talk about Taran. And the last time we were here, Taran and Gurgi were accosted by these warriors who stole his stallion, Melalas, which was a gift from Prince Gwydion, after the first book, which is the Book of Three. And so now Taran is been taken care of by this lovely farming couple who has offered him and Gurgi shelter and food and good lodging. And so now they're about to go see if they can find this cantreve where Melalas is being held. So we'll see what happens next. And no, I don't own the music that you're listening to in the background, which is brought to you by Mr. Ambiance. They are awesome. Please go on YouTube and show them some love. Like, share, subscribe. If you haven't already done so, please like and share upon the YouTube channel. We really do enjoy the support. And if you really want to hear a highly animated voice bring you wonderful stories of magic, adventure, science fiction, and many, many more in between. 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 But many, many more in between. I just had too much fun. I love my life. I love my job. I love bringing this to you all. So, all right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. Chapter 3, Gorion and Gast. Adon had pointed out the shortest path to Lord Gorian's stronghold, and the two wayfarers reached it by mid-afternoon. It was not a castle, Taran saw, but a large huddle of buildings circled by a barricade of wooden stakes lashed with osier and chinked up with hard-packed earth. The gate of heavy palings stood open, and there was much going and coming of horsemen, of warriors on foot, of herdsmen driving in their cows from pasture. Though Gurgi was far from eager, Taran led on, keeping as bold a face as he could, and amid the busy crowd the two entered the stronghold unnoticed and unchallenged. I see. That's why. Okay. Uh-huh. There we go. Without difficulty, Taran found the stables, which were larger, cleaner, and in better repair than the rest of the buildings, and strode quickly to a young boy raking straw, calling out in a firm voice, "Tell me, my friend, is there not a grey stallion here that Lord Gorian's warriors captured? A handsome steed, they say, and a rare one." "Grey stallion!" cried the stable boy. "Grey dragon, rather. The beast half kicked his stall down and gave me a bite I'll never forget. Lord Gorian will have broken bones before the day ends." "How then?" Taran hurriedly asked. "What has he done with the steed?" "What has the steed done with him?" answered the boy, grinning. "Threw him the most of a dozen times already. The master of horse himself cannot sit 3 moments on the creature's back, but Gorian tries to ride it even now. Gorian the Valorous he is called." The boy chuckled, then added behind his hand, "Though to my mind he has little stomach for this task." "But his henchmen egg him on, and so Gorian means to break the beast to his will, even if it must first break his back." "Master! Master!" Gurgi whispered frantically. "Hasten to King Smoit for helpings." Taran's face had paled at the boy's words. Caer Cadaern was too far. Smoit's help would come too late. "Where is the steed?" he asked, hiding his concern. "This would be a sight worth the seeing." The stable boy pointed his rake toward a long, low-roofed building. "In the training field behind the great hall. But take heed," he added, rubbing his shoulder. "Keep your distance, or the beast will give you worse than he gave me." Setting off instantly, Taran no sooner passed the great hall than he heard shouting and the furious whinny of Melilas. His pace quickened into a run. A grass, hoof-beaten turf was ahead. Yeah, Melilas is not happy that his master is not with him. All horses react that way, children. When they are... Actually, all animals do that. When an animal is in an unfamiliar place that they are not sure of their safety and well-being, they tend to act out to protect themselves and to make sure that they don't get abused and whatnot. So don't blame a cat for being a cat, and don't blame a dog for being a dog, and don't blame a horse for being a horse. Keep that in mind. He glimpsed warriors circling the gray stallion, who reared, bucked, and spun about with heels flying. In another moment, the burly, thick-set figure atop the stallion's back was flung loose. Then, arms and legs flailing, Lord Gorian plummeted to earth and lay there like a sack of lead. Melilas galloped desperately, seeking escape from the circle of warriors, one of whom hastened to snatch at the horse's reins. All caution forgotten, Taran cried out and raced to the stallion's side. He grasped the bridle before the surprised man could think of drawing his sword, and threw his arms about the neck of Melilas, who whickered in greeting. The other onlookers ran toward Taran as he strove to mount and pull Gurgi up after him. A hand seized his jacket. Taran fought free and set his back against the stallion's flank. Lord Gorian had meanwhile picked himself up, but now burst through the press of warriors. "Insolence! Impudence!" roared Gorian. His dark, gray-shot beard bristled like a furious hedgehog. His heavy face, with molted purple, weathered from bruises, lack of breath, blind anger, or all three at once, Taran could not judge. "Does a cur lay hand on my horse? Away with him! Thrash him soundly for his insult!" "I do no more than claim my own steed," Taran cried. "Melilas, foal of Melangar," a tall, raw-boned man with one arm bound up in a sling, whom Taran guessed to be the master of horse, peered sharply at him. "Foal of Melangar, Prince Gwydion's warhorse? That is noble lineage. How do you know this?" "I know it as well as I know Melilas was stolen from me," Taran declared, "near Adon's farmhold at the borders of your Cantreave, and my comrade robbed of his pony." He tried then to explain who he was and the purpose of his journey, but the Cantreave lord, unheeding, broke in angrily. "Impudence!" cried Gorian, his beard bristling all the more furiously. "How dares a pig-keeper insult me with a liar's tale? My border band gained these mounts nearly at the cost of their lives." The cost of our lives, Taran retorted, glancing hurriedly at the faces around him. Where are the riders? I beg you, call them to witness. More insolence, snapped the Cantreve Lord. They ride the borders as they are commanded. Do you mean to tell me I keep idle men and shirkers in my service? And full service have they given you, one of the warriors said to Gorion. Heroes, all of them, to stand against 6 giants. Giants? Repeated Taran, scarcely believing his ears. Giants indeed, cried Gorion. It will not be forgotten how the brave warriors of Gorion the Valorous were beset by enemies, outnumbered 2 to 1, by worse than giants. For one was a fierce monster with sharp claws and fangs, another carried an oak tree in his fist and swept it about as if it were no more than a twig, but the riders of Gorion overcame them all with glory and honor. The stallion, too, was bewitched, put in another of Gorion's henchmen, and fought as fiercely as the giants. The beast is a man-killer, vicious as a starving wolf. But Gorion the Valorous will tame the creature, added another, turning to the Cantreve Lord. You'll ride the brute, will you not, Gorion? Eh? Said Gorion, a painful and unhappy grimace suddenly marking his face. So I will, he growled, and flung out angrily. You insult my honor if you think I cannot. As Taran stood among these rough warriors, he began to despair finding any means of convincing the prickly-tempered Cantreve Lord, and thought crossed his mind to draw a blade and fight his way out as best he could. But another glance at the stern faces of the henchmen gave him only more cause for dismay. My lord, Taran said firmly, I speak the truth. There were no giants but my companion and myself, and a farmer who fought beside us. No giants, shouted Gorion, but more insults! He stamped his foot as if the turf itself had given him impertinence. You call my men liars, as well call me one! My lord, Taran began again, bowing deeply, for it was growing clear to him that Gorion's touchy honor would scarcely allow the Cantreve Lord to believe an account of simple horse-stealing, and there was, Taran realized even more, the border band themselves considerably more honor in overcoming giants than robbing assistant pig-keepers. I call no man liar, and your men spoke the truth. The truth, he added, as they saw it. Insolence! Cried Gorion. The truth as it is. There were giants, monsters, uprooted oaks. My men were well rewarded for their valor, but you shall have a beating for your impudence. What I believe, my lord, is this, Taran went on, choosing his words carefully, since all he had thus far managed to say Gorion had turned into one kind of insult or another. The sun was low, and our shadows made our number seem twice as great. Indeed, your men saw double what we truly were. As for giants, Taran hurried on before the Cantreve Lord could cry out against another impertinence. Again, the long shadows of sunset gave us such height that any man could mistake our size. The oak tree cudgel, Lord Gorion began. The farmer bore a stout oaken staff, Taran said. His arm was strong, his blows quick, as 2 of your men had good reason to know. He smote with such a mighty hand, small wonder they fell a tree had fallen them. Lord Gorion said nothing for a moment, but sucked a tooth and rubbed his bristling beard. What of the monster? A raving, furious creature they saw with their own eyes. The monster stands before you, Taran answered, pointing to Gurgi. He has long been my companion. I know him to be gentle, but the fiercest foe when roused. He is Gurgi! Yes, yes! Gurgi shouted. Be bold, clever, and fierce to fight for kindly master. With this, he bared his teeth, shook his hairy arms, and yelled so frightfully that Gorion and his henchmen drew backward a pace. The face of the Cantreve Lord had begun to furrow in deep perplexity. He shifted his bulk from one foot to another and glared at Taran. Shadows, he growled. You mean to shadow the bravery of those who serve me? Another insult. If your warriors believed they had seen what they claimed, Taran said, and fought accordingly, their bravery is no less. Indeed, he added half under his breath, it is every bit as great as their truthfulness, which is not great. All right. I see. I had a message. Sorry about that, y'all. These are no more than words, interrupted the master of horse. Show me deeds. There is no creature on 4 hooves that I cannot ride, save this one. You, Curl, would you dare to mount? For answer, Taran swung quickly into the saddle. Menelaus whinnied, pawed the ground, then stood calmly. Lord Gorion choked with amazement, and the master of horse stared in disbelief. A surprised murmur rose from Gorion's henchmen, but Taran heard a rough laugh as one of them called, "So ho, Gorion! A lout rides a steed a lord has not mastered, and takes your horse and honor both!" Taran thought he had seen a faint flicker of relief in Gorion's bruised face, as though he were not altogether displeased to avoid riding Menelaus, but at the henchman's words, the Cantreeve lord's features began to darken furiously. "Not so," Taran hastily cried out of the circle of men. "Would you have your liege lord ride a pig-keeper's nag? Is that fitting to his honor?" He turned now to Gorion, for a bold thought had come to him. "And yet, my lord, were you to take him as a gift from me—"
"What?" shouted Gorion at the top of his voice, his face turning livid. "Insults! Impertinence! Insolence! How dare you! I take no gifts from pig-keepers, nor will I lower myself to mount the beast again." He flung up an arm. "Begone, out of my sight! Your horse, your monster, and his pony along with you!"
Gorion snapped his jaws shut and said no more. Gurgi's pony was led from the stable, and under the eyes of the Cantreeve lord and his henchmen, the two companions passed unhindered through the gate. Taran rode slowly, head high, with all the assurance he could muster. But once out of sight of the stronghold, the companions clapped heels into their horses' flanks and galloped for dear life.
"Oh, wisdom that wins horses from prideful lord!"
Gurgi cried, when they had ridden far enough to be safe from any change of heart on the part of Gorion.
"Even Gurgi could not have been so clever. Oh, he wishes to be wise and kindly, master, but his poor tender head has no skill in such thinkings."
"My wisdom," Taran laughed, "barely enough to make up for losing Menelaus in the first place." He scanned the valley anxiously. Night was falling, and he had hoped by this time to have come upon a farmhold where they might shelter, for the encounter with Gorion's border band had given him no wish to learn what others might be roving the hills. But he saw neither cottage nor hut, and so pressed on through the purpling dusk. Lights flared in a clearing ahead, and Taran reined Menelaus to a halt near a stronghold much like Lord Gorion's, but here torches blazed at every corner of the palisade, from sockets set high on either side of the gate, even at the roof tree of the great hall, as if in token of feasting and revelry within. "Dare we stop here?" Taran said. "If this Cantreeve lord shows us Gorion's courtesy, we'd sleep sounder in a Gwithate's nest." Nevertheless, the hope of a comfortable bed and the torch's inviting glow made his weariness weigh all the heavier. He hesitated a moment, then urged Menelaus closer to the gate. To the men in the watchtower, Taran called out there here were wayfarers journeying to Caer Codarn and known to King Smoit. He was relieved when the portal creaked open and the guards beckoned the pair to enter. The chief steward was summoned, and he led Taran and Gurgi to the great hall. "Beg hospitality of my lord Gast," the steward told him, "and he will grant what he deems fit." As he followed the steward, Taran's spirits rose at the thought of a warm meal and a comfortable couch. Loud voices, laughter, and the merry notes of a harp come from the hall. Stepping through the doorway, Taran saw crowded tables on either side of a low-ceilinged room. At the far end, flanked by his henchmen and their ladies, sat a richly garbed warlord, a drinking horn in one fist and most of a joint of meat in the other. Taran and Gurgi bowed deeply before they could draw closer. The harper, standing in the middle of the hall, turned, cried out in surprise, and ran to them. Taran, whose hand was being shaken half off his arm, found himself blinking with astonishment at the long pointed nose and spiky yellow hair of his old companion, Fflewddur Fflam. "Well met, the two of you!" cried the bard, pulling them to the high table. "I've missed ever since we parted. Did you not stay at Caer Cadolman when we sailed from Mona?" Fflewddur hurriedly explained. "I really meant to leave off wandering and settle down in my own realm. Then I said to myself, Fflewddur, old fellow, spring's only once a year, and here it is. And here I am. But what of yourselves? First food and drink and your tidings later." Fflewddur had brought the companions to stand before Lord Gast, and Taran saw a heavy-featured warrior with a beard the color of muddy flax. A handsome collar-piece dangled from his neck, rings glittered on fingers stout enough to crack walnuts, and bands of beaten silver circled his arms. The Cantreeve lord's raiment was costly and well cut, but Taran saw it bore the spots and spatters not only of this feast, but of many others long past. The bard, with a sweep of his harp, named the companions to Lord Gast.
These two who sought the black cauldron from Arorn of Anuvin and fought at the side of Gwydion, Prince of Dawn, let your hospitality match their boldness.
And so it shall,
Gast loudly cried.
No wayfarer can fault the hospitality of Gas the Generous.
He made place for the companions at his table, and sweeping aside the empty bowls and dishes before him, clapped his hands, bawled for the steward. When the servitor arrived, Lord Gas commanded him to bring such an array of food and drink that Taran could hardly imagine himself eating half of it. Gurgi, hungry as always, smacked his lips in gleeful anticipation. As the steward left, Lord Gas took up a tale, whose matter Taran found difficult to follow, concerning the costliness of his food and his open-handedness towards travelers. Taran listened courteously through it all, surprised and delighted at his good luck in finding Gas' stronghold, feeling more at ease thanks to the presence of Fluter. Taran at last, ventured to speak of his meeting with Lord Gorion.
Gorion, snorted Gast. Arrogant boor, crude lout, braggart and boaster, to boast of what?
He snatched up a drinking horn.
See this? He cried. The name of Gast carved upon it, and the letters worked in gold. See this cup, this bowl, these ornaments, my common table. My storehouse holds even finer, as you shall see. Gorion, horseflesh is all he knows, and little enough of that.
Fluter, meanwhile, had raised the harp to his shoulder and began to strike up a tune. It's a small thing I composed myself, he explained, though I must say it's been cheered and praised by thousands. No sooner were the words past his lips that the harp bent like an overdrawn bow, and a string broke with a loud twang. Drat that thing, muttered the bard. Will it give me no peace? I swear it's getting worse. The slightest bit of color added to the facts, and it cost me a string. Yes, as I meant to say, I know full half a dozen who deemed the song rather well done. With deafness born of long, sad practice, Fluter knotted up the broken string. Taran, glancing around the hall this while, was surprised to realize the plates and drinking horns of the guests were more than half empty, and in fact showed no sign of ever having been full. His perplexity grew when the steward returned to set the food-laden tray before Lord Gast, who planted his elbows on either side of it.
Eat your fill,
cried Gast to Taran and Gurgi, pushing a small hunch of gravy-spotted bread toward them, and keeping the rest for himself.
Gas the Generous is ever open-handed. A sad fault that may turn me into a pauper, but it's my nature to be free of all my goods. I can't fight against it.
So, a pauper, which kind of alludes to another favorite story of mine, The Prince and the Pauper, which is written, if I'm not mistaken, by the same person who wrote Yankee in King Arthur's Court. Yes, I'm pretty sure. Ooh, my goodness, I can't remember the author's name. That's terrible. I'm sorry, y'all. It'll come to me later. But a pauper is to refer to someone who is poor, someone who is lacking wealth, somebody who is of meager means, low income, poverty, poor. That's what a pauper is. This is somebody that goes around seeking help. He believes that by giving away so much food and money and wealth that he will be broke, but he's okay with that because this Lord wants to help and do for other people, which is a positive thing. Generous, Taran murmured under his breath to Fluter, while Gurgi, swallowing the skimpy fare, looked hopelessly around for more. I think he'd make a miser seem a prodigal in comparison. So passed the meal, with Gas loudly urging the companions to stuff themselves, yet all the while grudgingly offering them no more than a few morsels of stringy meat from the heap platter. Only at the end, when Gast had swallowed all he could and his head nodded sleepily and his beard straggled into his drinking horn, were the companions able to down the meager leavings. At last, disheartened and with bellies still hollow, the three went their way to a meanly furnished chamber where they nevertheless dropped into sleep like stones. In the morning, Taran was impatient to start once more for Caer Codron, and Fluter agreed to ride with them, but Lord Gas would hear none of it until the companions marveled at his storerooms. The Cadreeve lord flung open chests of goblets, ornaments, weapons, horse trappings, and many things Taran judged of high value, but in such a muddled heap that he could scarcely tell one from another.
Among all these goods, Taran's eyes lingered on a gracefully fashioned wine bowl, the most beautiful Taran had ever seen. He had, however, little chance to admire it, for the Cantreeve lord quickly thrust a garishly ornamented horse bridle into Taran's hands, and as quickly replaced it with a pair of stirrups, which he praised equally. "That wine bowl is worth all the rest put together," Fluderd whispered to Taran as Lord Gas now led the three companions from the storehouse to a large cow pen just outside the barricade. "I recognize the work from the hand of Anlaw Clayshaper, a master craftsman, the most skilled potter in Prydain. I swear his wheel is enchanted. Poor Gast," Fluder added, "to count himself rich and know so little of what he owns." "But how has he gained such treasure?" Taran said. "On the score, I should hesitate to ask," Fluder murmured with a grin. "Very likely the same way Gorion gained your horse."
"And this," cried the Cantreeve lord, halting beside a black cow who stood peacefully grazing amid the rest of the herd, "and this is Cornillo, the finest cow in all the land."
Taran could not gainsay the words of the Cantreeve lord, but Cornillo shone as if she had been polished, and her short curving horns sparkled in the sun. Lord Gas proudly stroked the animal's sleek flanks.
"Gentle as a lamb, strong as an ox, swift as a horse, and wise as an owl,"
Gast went on, while Cornillo, calmly munching her cud, turned patient eyes to Taran, as though hoping not to be mistaken for anything other than a cow.
"She leads my cattle," declared Lord Gas, "better than any herdsman can. She'll pull a plow or turn a grist mill if need be. Her calves are always twins. As for milk, she gives the sweetest cream, every drop, so rich the dairymaids can scarcely churn it."
Cornillo blew out her breath almost in a sigh, switched her tail, and went back to grazing. From the pasture, Lord Gas pressed the companions to the hen roost, and from there to the hawk mews, and the morning was half spent, and Taran had begun to despair of ever leaving the stronghold, which Gast finally ordered their mounts readied. Fluder, Taran saw, still rode Lion, the huge, golden, tawny cat who had saved the companions' lives on the Isle of Mona. "Yes, I decided to keep her. Rather, she's decided to keep me," said the bard as Lion, recognizing Taran, padded forward and began happily rubbing her head against his shoulder. "She loves the heart more than ever," Fluder went on. "Can't hear enough of it." No sooner did he say this than Lion flicked her long whiskers and turned to give the bard a forceful nudge, so that Fluder then and there had to unsling his instrument and strike a few chords, while Lion, purring loudly, blinked fondly at him with great yellow eyes.
"Farewell,"
called the Cantreeve lord as the companions mounted. At the stronghold of Gas the Generous,
"You'll find an open-handed welcome."
"It's a generosity that could starve us to death," Taran, laughing, remarked to the bard as they rode eastward again. "Gas thinks himself open-handed, as Gorion thinks himself valorous, and as far as I can judge, neither one has the truth of it. Yet," he added, "they both seem pleased with themselves. Indeed, is a man truly what he sees himself to be?" And I'll repeat that. They both seem pleased with themselves. Indeed, is a man truly what he sees himself to be? "Only if what he sees is true," answered Fluder. "If there's too great a difference between his own opinion and the facts, then, my friend, I should say that such a man had no more substance to him than Gorion's giants. But don't judge them too harshly," the bard went on. "These Cantreeve nobles are much alike, prickly as porcupines one moment and friendly as puppies the next. They're all hoard their possessions, yet they can be generous to a fault if their mood strikes them. As for valor, they're no cowards. Death rides in the saddle with them, and they count it nothing, and in battle I've seen them gladly lay down their lives for a comrade. At the same time," he added, "it's almost always been my experience in all my wanderings that the farther and further from the deed, the greater it grows, and the most glorious battle is the one longest past. So it's hardly surprising how many heroes you run into." "Had they harps like mine," said Fluder, warily glancing at his instrument, "what a din you'd hear from every stronghold in Prydain." And that is where we will end for tonight. As always, I thank you all for joining me. Jeez, y'all, my hair is getting long. But as I think about it, The Prince and the Pauper is a story we could read. A Yankee in King Arthur's Court is another story we could read. I think it's a Connecticut in King Arthur's Court. But there's a movie called A Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is a Disney movie and it's really good. Go check it out on Disney Plus. And no, I'm not being paid to say this. I just love that movie. Go check it out. It's called A Kid in King Arthur's Court, but it's based off of that book, and it is a treat. So, without further ado, I'll see you all next time. Bye bye. Thanks, y'all. I love you.